Hey gang, Professor Feeser here, and in today's video, we're going to use GitHub Actions to order a Domino's pizza. It's kind of silly, right? It's silly. You don't really use GitHub Actions to do things like order pizzas, but you could. You can use GitHub Actions to do anything you want, and that's sort of the point of this video. Right now, I'm working with a corporate customer. They are transitioning from an old CI system into GitHub Actions. And for the last month and for the next month, we are just translating workflow after workflow and learning more about how to set up shop over in GitHub. And one of the questions I keep getting, or one of the themes that keeps coming up week to week is, Zach, what are the boundaries on where like GitHub Actions begin and where they end? And what I mean by that is, what are the case uses for GitHub Actions? Like, what can I do with them? It's important to understand GitHub Actions are effectively like Jenkins, if you're familiar, right? GitHub Actions are meant to fill the manual clicky clicks and typey types that you'd have to do otherwise, right? That is to say, if I have to deploy into my cloud, I'm reaching for Terraform. Now, Terraform needs a trigger, which might be GitHub Actions, right? Because of an if event. The then event is GitHub Actions runs a Terraform job. Why? Because Terraform is best suited for that, not necessarily GitHub Actions. Similarly, what I have done here, which is admittedly kind of silly, is write a Selenium script in Python. If you're familiar with Selenium, it's pretty well known. If not, no worries. It's a toolkit that lets you make clicky clicks on a website. So when you hear about like bots and bots going out and doing things on the web, Selenium is one of a few options that you might have to go build your little bot. Mostly though, its intended purpose is not, clicking through websites. It's for, well, it is for clicking through websites, but testing like front ends that are built. So, it would be, I want to deploy some website, and I would make sure the clicky clicks work without having to go click through them, right? Well, what I decided, because a lot of students are interested in how do I use Selenium to do testing, I thought, well, I'll show you how to use Selenium to order a Domino's pizza. And then you can just replace the order for the Domino's pizza with your own tests. So this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be broken into a couple parts. Maybe the most exciting is clicking the action to go order the pizza, but let's get started. Gang, our study of ordering a Domino's pizza with GitHub Actions is going to start with the Selenium script. So let's check out this file right here, order.py. That's the Selenium script itself. But I don't want to look at it here. I want to look at it inside of PyCharm. This is an IDE. Visual Studio would be fine as well. The reason I want to look at it here is because I'm trying to test browser automation. Right? The first place I want to work out the bugs of browser automation is a place where a browser is going to pop up in front of me and I can see where it gets stuck as the automations are moving. I'll show you how we then port just this script into the GitHub action. The GitHub action part's actually the easiest one. But let's zip down through this so we have an understanding of how the Selenium script functions. This is the app that we're going to trigger ultimately with the GitHub action. Okay, gang, we're going to start up at the top. We have documentation, and you should always have documentation at the top of your code just to explain what's going on. We then have our standard library imports, and then we have our Selenium imports. Below that, I say, look, I need to pull in some environmental variables. So outside of main, just like in the global space, I am cycling through city, state, last name, first name, email, phone, and looking for their values. They have to be set in order for the pizza ordering process to work. And very much, you just set them as environmental variables. I have them set This is PyCharm, the IDE. I have them set in PyCharm. In GitHub, you would also set them either as secrets or as variables, probably secrets, so that you, in my mind, that's secret information. I wouldn't want publicly logged my phone number, email, first name, last name. All right, down I have a function then called new website. Gang, I will say this solution is about as silly as it can be. It was working very reliably. And then Dominos, it seems in the last week, started rolling out a new website. And one of the things that, companies will do is they'll roll out sometimes the new version and other times stick with the old version. They're gathering metrics, they're fixing bugs, there's new versions they want to push out potentially. So it is a roll of the dice which version of the website you're actually going to get. The other tricky thing is the new website keeps changing day to day. I've been working on this solution for a little over a week. And about every 2 days, I need to update some of the XPaths. I'll teach you about an XPath here in a moment. Well, how about right now? Here's an XPath, gang. An XPath is a description of a clicky click on a website. So why don't I just show you one here? We can go out to old Dominos.com. By the way, this would be the new website. The old one has a different look to it. This is the new version. But when we're talking about XPaths, they are descriptions of clicky clicks you can make. And the way you can find a clicky click is right click and go down to inspect. Now, I'm on Chrome, but all the browsers will have this feature somehow. You can then click on an element to inspect it and say click right there. And when I clicked, did you see how over here it lit up this code section? What that's implying is, hey, we think that this code block is what corresponds to that button. So what you can then do is right click. You can come down to copy and copy full XPath. Okay, when you do that, what just showed up on the clipboard is something that looks a bit like that. I'm going to paste it in here just so you have a sense of what it looks like. There you go. There's an XPath. Now, if I explain to you what my thought was for this code, because I don't know what version of the website's showing up. Is it the new version or is it the old version? I wrote a little function that can be called early on and just says, hey, can you find old reliable? This is a link on the old website. It's never changed. It always works. So I just try to, can you click on it? We try to do that. It then returns either, yes, I could click on it, or no, I could not click on it. Down in main, gang, and by the way, I have tried to adhere to best practice a little bit, but this is going to get refactored quite a few times. I'm just trying to get something to work right now, right? So don't judge my Python code too harshly in that, yes, it would get improved if I can find a way to order pizza stably. I'll keep working on this. Here's what we're going to try. So try is our intention. If there's an error, we jump to error handling, just like we had up here on new website. We're going to try to grab this XPath. If we can't, boom. No such element exception hits, and we return true. Sorry, this is the new website versus the old one. So I'm going to try to open Firefox. I have this solution written for a Firefox browser. I didn't think it really mattered if we were using Firefox or using Chrome or Edge would be the other one it supports. So open Firefox and then try to go out to the Dominos website. Go to sleep for 5 seconds. There is a better way to handle this with Selenium. There is code you can write that says when this page finishes loading, you can proceed. Or when you finally see this image load, then you know it's okay to proceed. This is, again, something that moving forward, I would want to replace with maybe better functionality. But for right now, just go to sleep for 5 seconds, making sure that the page fully loads. I then say, if not, new website. That's the function I wrote to figure out, is this the old pizza website or the new pizza website? If it's the old pizza website, I start by hitting the carryout button. I enter data for finding the city that I'm in. That comes from the environmental variable. And you can see what you do is you locate a button click on the screen. And then that's called the element. And then you can like send keys to it. So I send an environmental variable to it, which would be the state. That would be like inputs to the application. You can see it's just a series of that. It's really kind of fun if you can get obsessive with the project, in that you're constantly just, you'll see in a moment, I'm going to run the automation. The project runs, right? When it fails, you go, okay, I figure out the next button click and repeat. Again, there's a lot of repetition here. We could make some function calls out of this, but just getting it working is step one in my mind. This is all for the old website. Okay? And then I have an else statement, which is, if it's not the new website, so if it's the old website, here's how you click through it. Else, it must be the new website. Here's the new way to click through it. Now, who knows if it will stay this way, but what I've been finding is like div 6 will change to div 7 and everything else stays the same. Here's another div 6, or maybe, a div 1 will change to a div 2. It's real minor changes day to day. And I just keep updating it. I am not a front-end designer. If you are and are watching this video and going, oh, I understand these XPaths, I think it's just versioning. I think what's happening is every few days, something else is changing, and that's like a version control thing. But if you have a better recommendation on how to handle these XPaths or something more reliable, put it down in the comments, right? I will chat with you and maybe even re-record the video or record an update. But for right now, this is how it works. You know what? You could also hit the repo, open an issue there, and we'll pull the code in if you have a good fix. In any event, right now, we have 2 working solutions. Just a heads up, potentially, this solution could be misused. And here's why. Dominos lets you place a cash order. As in, you just give them some information about who you are and tell them you're going to pay cash, and they will start making pizza. This tool was not in any way set up to spam or attack or DOS attack or cause damage to Dominos. So you will always find 2 things. Number one, you probably have to update the script to work for the new website. I'm not going to be updating this every day. Number 2 is the click place your order button. I have commented out. In my mind, if you're going to fork my solution, if you're going to take the time to put in your own secrets to make it work, because secrets don't work on a fork, or don't copy on a fork. If you're going to uncomment place your order, at that point, you have changed the code significantly. That's on you. You know what you're doing. But do not, use the script deliciously. Don't use the script maliciously, right? I really did just want to build something that's fun and silly, helps you learn GitHub Actions, as well as, gets a pizza in your belly by the end of it. So if you run this, your intention, you got to go pick up the pizza, gang. Down at the bottom is a finally. So that means in all cases. Selenium lets you grab a screenshot, especially if we're going to run this solution inside of GitHub, which is going to be a container. Like it'll be headless. We can't see into it. Super important, especially on a failure, that we grab a screenshot and write that out. That'll be part of, how GitHub Actions, part of the solution GitHub Actions provides for us. Right now, I'm going to hit run on this script. I have commented out again the place your order, either on the old website or new website. So it'll get up to a point, it will end. Then we're going to hop over to GitHub, and we're going to click the button where it's not commented out. And we're going to watch a pizza get ordered. I'll go pick it up then. So almost there. Okay, gang, pizza time draws closer. One little tweak I had to make in order.py. That's the script we just spent some time looking at. I added an import from Selenium WebDriver, Firefox options, import options. And that's because I had to, down in main, prime the driver a little bit differently. I had to add those 2 lines and tweak that 3rd line to include options. All this is sending to Selenium is you're not going to run in an environment like Windows. You're running in a container that has a browser application, but we call it headless, a headless server. Right? That's all. That's the only tweak. Otherwise, it's the exact same script. Back to GitHub Actions. Gang, I have a lot of videos on GitHub Actions. They are a big deal. If you're unfamiliar, though, if you've ever heard the term pipeline, if you've ever heard the CI/CD, it's more of the CI phase. But a better way to describe it, like let's get rid of the nerd talk in marketing. I want a series of if events along with then events. It's just if-then logic. As in, the if is a trigger. In a GitHub action, that's the on. You can have all sorts of triggers, right? This one, a workflow dispatch, is somebody clicked the button, or automation clicked the button, like curl or API call clicked it. But on a button press, what do I want to do? Everything else is the what do you want to do. So if this, then everything else. In this case, I want to provide some metadata to a job. The job's called test. Realistically, let's make an edit here. I don't like the word test, right? That's not very descriptive. Let's call our job same as our repo, right? Let's call it order a Domino's pizza. And we'll put hyphens in there. Order a Domino's pizza. That's super clear. Nobody can say, whoops, I didn't know I was ordering a pizza. Yeah, you did. That was the job. So on a button press, the job is going to be called order a Domino's pizza. These are environmental variables, as in everything that we're describing is going to execute in a Linux container, specifically an Ubuntu 2404 LTS image. That's free. They just give us that. Very cool. Well, that run space, it's called a runner. That run space, we have to pollute, imbue with some powers. Our script expects some environmental variables to be present, right? First name, last name, email, phone, city, state. Well, I'm not comfortable, especially since this is a public repo, I'm really not comfortable with other people being able to see that stuff potentially. I mean, my logs are public then. So, if you draw this information from the secrets vault, GitHub does a pretty good job of putting stars there, just removing it altogether. Right? So for anything potentially secret, sensitive, put it in the secrets vault. In this case, I'm just saying, hey, this environmental variable will have this value from the secrets vault. And I'll show you that right before we run. Services, this is kind of different. Okay, basically, when you run Selenium, you call a Selenium image that you want to draw from. Looking at the image description, Selenium, standalone, Firefox, images are assumed, unless you say otherwise. The image repo, which isn't described here, is assumed to be docker.io. I would say in 2025, when you are in GitHub, where GitHub has its own GitHub container registry, let's move away from that, gang. Best practice is gotta be put full descriptions on here. Docker.io/. Where is this coming from? I don't want to assume. So there you go. That doesn't change anything. It's just more descriptive. All right, so docker.io, and by the way, if you're going docker.io, what's that? Docker Hub. If you've ever been to, just Google Docker Hub. And I know it's like, well, it's not Docker.io. It is. Docker.io is where you pull from. Docker Hub is like the GUI that you get the visual on. It made it purposefully super confusing. I don't get it either. Options, we're just passing how we want this container set up. Selenium, that's the namespace, they publish all these. They're containers that have browsers in them. Standalone Firefox. There's a standalone Chrome. There's a standalone Edge. And it's for exactly this. Pull these containers in and use them, run them. All right, so that's like setup for the Ubuntu environment. We then want to actually run through the steps of triggering our code to run. So this is what I came up with. Again, there might be something we could shave off of here or improve, but it works, right? And that's the nature of code. You get it to work and then make it better when you got the time. What are we going to do? Well, this runner world, we're using the word imbue, we need to pool. We need to give it more powers. And the powers we want to give our runner, our virtual machine, our place where we're executing the code, is everything that's in our repo in the first place. That's not there right now. That's sort of, I mean, it makes sense after you start thinking about it. Like, oh, sure, we just spawn this new place. They don't make any assumptions that you want your code in there. Right? It is truly just a free Linux terminal to do whatever you want. Actions checkout is called a GitHub action. This is the namespace. That's the name of the repo, as in you can go to github.com/action/checkout and you will see code there. It's really easy to figure out where that is. The @v4 speaks to a version of the app, right? They start at V0 or V1 and they have their own versioning scheme that works, goes up from there. If it works, don't feel any pressure to change it. I think at the time of publication, check out @v5 exists. Cool. When everything's stable, when everything's working, I will go back and change it to V5 or when it stops working. But until then, just for this updating stuff for the sake of updating stuff, nah, it's fine to be on 4. Step 2, set up Python. There's a bunch of setup actions. So there is like set up Python, set up Node for JavaScript, set up Go, I think, for like Golang, set up, I think there's set up Java for Java environments, so on and so forth. Again, if you want to see them all, you hop out to actions. There's about 80 actions that exist. The actions are those created by GitHub, GitHub team, GitHub community that are endorsed, would have the checkboxes beside like, these are cool to use. As far as what does it do? It's an abstraction of installing Python, right? So set up Python just means we just need Python and pip installed. If you're going, well, could I run that command? Could I do an apt install Python? Sure, you can use a run command, but generally, when an abstraction is available, you use it, right? This is a lot more than a single command. You can pass flags to it. Like if we look down at step 7, this uses upload artifact, and then it has a with. With is option flags. So you could say, I want to set up Python with, and then I believe all of the setups let you pass in like versions, right? Or flavors of the language that you actually want. Here I'm just, whatever you want to install, the latest is fine. Again, version controlling is crazy important, but in this case, something to improve in the future. All right, next step is install our requirements. So this is just a Python thing. Python warriors know this. Python, I want to run the module called pip to install the requirements file called requirements.txt. You can call it anything you want, but traditionally we call Python the documentation for Python dependencies. It goes in a file called requirements.txt in the root, which we now have in our runner because of the checkout action. Checkout's basically a clone, gang. Clones the code. Git clone. All right, so next, in order to make this work, you have to have a thing called a GeckoDriver in there. It's part of the Selenium setup process. So that's one where I looked around. I couldn't find readily a action that would let me do that. So just like step 3 where I used run, I said, yeah, I actually want to run some Linux commands. I want to run that Linux command and then run this Linux command. Step 5, set up the GeckoDriver. So if you're going, could you have all these steps like 1, 2, 3, 4? Sure. And it's up to you. Use best judgment where you think a break might have to be if you're using all these runs. Next, I just run the Selenium script. It will work. And then finally, upload artifact. Remember our script produces a screenshot at the end of it. We saw that run. I didn't show you necessarily the screenshot. Shame on me. Here it is. This is the screenshot that gets produced at the end of the script. Well, that's going to be saved into this runner. The runner is deleted at the end of execution. So, it's actually, we have to tell GitHub, the GitHub action, how to put special handling on our environment in order to preserve that. So down here, this if always is a conditional that just says, doesn't matter if things worked or they broke down, maybe even especially if they broke down. We want to still always run this step, which is find a file called screenshot.png and make it available at the outside of the action. You'll see that in just a moment, gang. All right, so we're almost there. I just want to show you the secrets vault, and then I think it's time to hit order a pizza. Okay, gang, right before we order the pizza, I think one of the last things we need to cover was how do we deal with this information here? Secrets first name, secrets last name, secrets email. That's handled in settings. If we go into settings and then over on the left, scroll down to secrets and variables, you can go into actions, scroll down a bit, pretty straightforward, gang. You hit new repository secret, describe the secret itself, any name you want to give it. Uppercase seems to be best practice. And then paste in the secret. This is not recommended for highly complex. I don't mean complex. I mean highly structured data. So if you have some really advanced JSON, you might want to look for a secret solution other than GitHub Actions. That's from their documentation. And they just say, like, sometimes GitHub Actions get it wrong unpacking the highly structured data. So make your best call. If it's a token, if it's an SSH key or anything like that, it belongs here. Or something like an email address, phone number. I don't need the world seeing that. Once it's in here, gang, it doesn't transfer if somebody hits fork. So, I currently have all these in here. If I click on one, you can't see what it is. All I can do is update it. Additionally, back on code, if somebody hits that fork button, they're not going to get a copy of that stuff. They have to re-enter those values. Okay, gang, unless I think of something else between now and the next few seconds, let's order a pizza. I'm getting hungry, honestly. Okay, gang, we finally think we're ready to order a pizza. So we hit the Actions tab. Over on the left, we click on the workflow we want. Over on the right, we click Run Workflow. That'll start the workflow. You don't have to do anything else. Now, this is a public workflow. You can come out and see the successful versus failed jobs. That's public information. That said, you're going to find a lot of failed jobs here, more fails than successes. So no, I have not eaten 37 pizzas. What I'm finding is there's so much that needs to get tweaked when you take a Selenium script from a desktop world and try to run it in container world. For example, I did not know Selenium has the limitation of if you can't see it, it can't click on it. As in, you have to tell Selenium how to scroll up and down. So I was messing with that for a long time, and I finally figured out when you start Selenium, you can just tell it the resolution you want. So given that this is automation, I thought, okay, I'll just make the resolution very large so everything's very small and fits on a page. Then Selenium can potentially see the clicks it needs to make. The good news is every time I run this, I'm getting a bit further. I'm not seeing the same errors. The old website, it's getting real close. The new website, I'm on the last click. Truly all I was held up with is the scrolling up and down. The way they refactored their page now requires a scroll. So I think I have it. I just said, let's make the resolution real big. I don't have to scroll at that point. I should just be able to make the clicks that I need. So we'll see. Every failure is different. That's important. And getting a little bit closer each time. I mean, ordering the pizza, getting the pizza, that's the icing on the cake. Right? It's the journey that's ultimately important. The Selenium script itself takes about 2 minutes to run. So the fact that it's gotten up about that far is really good news. And if we get a green check, it's a sign that we got a pizza. So let's go ahead and confirm our pizza's on the way. I'll hop out to the pizza mobile and go pick it up. I'll come back. I'll show you on the label, RZFeeser ordered a pizza. Looking at the breakdown here, let's go check the screenshot that was taken. We should see something about a successful pizza order. Okay, gang, so checking out that screenshot, there's 2 ways to get at the artifact. You can either, in the log, click it, they have a link there, or if you go back to the summary page, go down and there's the screenshot. So we can download that. And right there, we'll click on 21. It just downloaded the zip. It's opening in Windows. I'll go ahead and open that screenshot. And yes, look at that. It's grayed out because they want me to sign up for pizza rewards. But if you see in the gray, thank you for your order, I might have to fuzz that out for privacy reasons, but a pizza has been ordered. So you can order a pizza with GitHub Actions, a Domino's pizza with GitHub Actions. I'm going to go pick it up. I'll be right back. We'll use the power of editing to make it quick. And we'll wrap things up. I'll show you the pizza and a couple final remarks. Okay, gang, we're back. And most importantly, we are back with the Domino's pizza, right? And there's no sticker on the box, right? They don't do that. But they did hand me a receipt. And the receipt there, you can see, has 8/21/2025, 7:09 p.m. That's Eastern. And down in the corner is RZFeeser, which is what I placed the order with. I went into the successful job run and I clicked show timestamps. You can see August 21st, 2025, 23:07 GMT. Do the conversion, and I believe that would have been about an hour ago that ran, just a little bit over an hour. So we were successful. We used GitHub Actions to order a pizza. There you go, gang. We did the impossible. We ordered a Domino's pizza through GitHub Actions. Now remember, using Selenium to order our pizza is more about learning about Selenium testing inside of GitHub than it actually is about creating something reliable. If you want to come out and play with this code, maybe make some improvements, that would be awesome. It's in my personal GitHub, github.com/RZFeeser/GitHub Actions- order a Domino's pizza. If you do come out and interact with it, give me a star before you hit fork. And of course, if you come up with some cool new features, open a pull request. I'll yank that right back in. I'd love to see some collab on this project. As always, if you're looking for training for yourself, team, organization, on GitHub Actions or anything I have videos on, my contact info is below the video. Finally, if you felt like you learned something, give me a like, hit subscribe so I can see you in the next episode of Code with Feeser.